Learning English with English Faculties.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's explainer, especially to all you Class 11 and 12 ISC students tuning in. If you're studying Lafcadio Hearn's short story, A Living God, well, you already know it's an absolute masterpiece. Today, we're actually going to skip the basic plot summary. You already know what happens. Instead, we are diving straight into the deep philosophical mystery at the heart of this text so you can completely master these themes for your exams. Let's get right into it.
So, here is the big question. Why on earth would a group of villagers build a temple to worship a man who is still alive and literally sitting right next door? It's a massive paradox, right? Usually we build statues or raise temples for historical figures long after they've passed away, or, for distant, unseen gods. But in this coastal Japanese village, they build a shrine to their neighbor, Hamaguchi Gohei, while he is perfectly alive, probably just sipping tea on his porch up the hill. I mean, why?
To really understand that, we've got to do a quick rewind to the climax of the story. Okay, picture this. Everything kicks off with this weird, slow, spongy earthquake. Down below, the villagers are busy celebrating a harvest festival. But up on his high plateau, Hamaguchi notices the sea is rapidly receding. It's a monstrous ebb. Thanks to his grandfather's stories, he instantly knows what's coming, a tsunami. But here's the catch. He has zero time to run down the hill to warn them, and ringing the temple bell wouldn't actually explain the immediate danger. So what does he do? He makes a crazy choice. Step 3. He deliberately sets fire to his entire harvest of rice. The villagers see the smoke, they rush up the hill to put out the fire, and right then, bam! Step 4. The tsunami completely annihilates the village below. Which brings us right to step 5.
400. That is exactly how many lives were saved that evening. And the craziest part? He saved them by completely manipulating human nature. Hamaguchi knew that natural human curiosity was pulling the villagers toward that exposed, dangerous seabed. He needed something way stronger to pull them up that steep mountain. So, by burning his own massive wealth, literally his entire invested capital for the whole year, he weaponized their loyalty and their instinct to fight a fire. Every single one of those 400 villagers survived simply because he forced them to stand on that high plateau.
And as they're all just standing there, totally stunned, looking down at where their homes literally used to be just moments ago, Hamaguchi breaks the silence. He simply says, "That was why I set fire to the rice." It's such a simple, gentle line, but it completely anchors the whole text. It shows his unbelievable presence of mind. I mean, there's absolutely no panic in his voice, no crying over his lost wealth. He is just utterly calm. He successfully traded his entire fortune for the lives of his people, and he knows it.
Okay, let's move into our first major theme. Section 1, the paradox of poverty and divinity.
The immediate aftermath of this tsunami introduces a totally fascinating social flip. Hamaguchi, right, he was the Choja, the absolute wealthiest man in the village. But he just intentionally destroyed all of his invested capital, those huge rice stacks. In an instant, he became as poor as the poorest peasant standing next to him in the dirt. But here is the amazing part. In exchange for giving up his financial superiority, he received the absolute highest cultural honor imaginable. The villagers didn't just give him a pat on the back and say thank you. No, they elevated him to the status of a god. They gave him the title Hamaguchi Daimyojin. He basically bought their lives with his wealth, and they repaid him with true divine reverence.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, two views of the soul.
Now, what's really interesting about this is to truly grasp why they could legally and culturally just declare him a living god, we have to understand the stark contrast between two very different global perspectives on the human soul. In your typical Western or European concept, the soul is strictly confined to one individual body, right? It's highly individualistic. And spiritual perfection, or sainthood, is almost exclusively recognized only after a person has died. But remember, Lafcadio Hearn is writing about Japan here, and the Shinto concept of the soul is porous. It's deeply, deeply connected to the broader community. In this philosophical tradition, a great, selfless mind and spirit can actually exist in multiple places at once. So a person's soul can be venerated down in a shrine by the sea, while the physical man is still alive and well, planting a brand new crop up on the hill.
And that brings us to an absolutely crucial vocabulary word for your exams. Ikigami, or kami. An ikigami literally translates to a living god or a sacred spirit. You see, in the Shinto religion, a kami isn't necessarily some magical glowing being from the sky. It can just be a person who completely transcends their human ego. and acts with profound, selfless wisdom right here on Earth. Because the Japanese soul is seen as so expansive and connected, Hamaguchi's incredible act of sacrificing his entire livelihood for his neighbors proved that his spirit was quite literally divine. He embodied the qualities of a god, all while he was still breathing.
We actually see this contrast play out in how divinity itself is viewed. Think about Western divinity. It's largely transcendent. God is unseen, omnipotent, and exists entirely outside or above our mundane physical world. But Shinto divinity? It is localized. It's accessible. The divine isn't somehow separate from nature or humanity. It's woven right into it. Divinity is fully capable of manifesting in a living, breathing, elderly farmer who makes a split-second decision to set his entire life savings on fire just to protect his community.
All right, let's look at our final major theme. Section 3, Action over Blind Faith.
This localized, tangible view of divinity leads right into Lafcadio Hearn's most powerful critique in the whole story. Just think back to what the villagers were actually doing right before the tsunami hit. They were celebrating the festival of Ujima, their traditional harvest god. They were practicing this ritualistic faith, praying, hanging lanterns, dancing around. But when the literal ocean was about to swallow them whole, Ujima offered zero warning and absolutely no protection. The rituals did nothing. In stark contrast, Hamaguchi provided decisive human action. He made a real-world sacrifice. He didn't just stop and pray for a miracle. Guys, he became the miracle. He actively saved those 400 lives using his own wisdom and his own two hands.
So when you're inevitably asked in your exam exactly why the peasants worshipped him and built that temple, the reasons are actually super clear. They worshipped him because he prioritized human life over immense personal wealth. He demonstrated what divine selflessness actually looks like in practice. He proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that true spirituality is about active service to your fellow man, not just chanting inside a temple. And honestly, most importantly, he took decisive, hard action when the traditional rituals completely failed them. I mean, he was quite literally a better protector than the god they've been celebrating all afternoon.
So the crucial point to take away from all of this is, true spirituality means actively protecting others. Lafcadio Hearn isn't just telling us a really cool historical survival story here. He is making a profound argument about what actually makes someone holy. It isn't about having magical powers or performing unseen miracles. It's about moral courage. It is about having the presence of mind to actually see danger coming, and having the absolute selflessness to sacrifice your own comfort, your own wealth, and your own ego to make sure your community is safe.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on, both for your exams and honestly, just for yourselves. Lafcadio Hearn wrote this story over a century ago, but just look around us today. In our modern world, which is so deeply obsessed with accumulating wealth, hoarding status, and, just looking out for number one, what does true heroism and divinity actually look like to you today? Hamaguchi Gohei showed us that sometimes you literally have to burn your own riches to the ground to truly save the people around you. Keep that powerful thought in mind as you study. Happy learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.